Hello everyone.
Hello, Stephen.
Hello.
Hello, Stephen.
We sure did pick a great day to meet and talk about Guideline 8.
I agree, but could someone refresh my memory? How does Guideline 8 read?
Sure, Stephen. Guideline 8 reads, His Church and Sacred Purpose Trust is established at the moment that property, tangible and intangible, is granted to the holding possession of the ministers of trust, accepting that the mere promise or pledge of payment is not considered property and cannot, by itself, form a trust corpus.
Thanks, Zach.
I have a question. What is the significance of the words, holding possession?
Wouldn't holding possession imply the transfer of legal title to a trustee? The whole purpose of any trust is to divide title to property into legal and equitable. The legal title to possession and use, which includes all the burdens of ownership, is transferred to the named trustee, while the equitable title with all the beneficial interests, the benefits of ownership, are transferred to the named beneficiary.
Yeah. If I were to just hand my car keys over to you, Dave, does that mean I am transferring legal title of my car to you, creating a bona fide trust of some sort? Or could I merely be creating some other sort of trusting relationship that really isn't a pure trust, such as a bailment, or an agency, from some sort of oral or written agreement?
That's what I was trying to ask. Just about everything we do creates a type of trust, meaning a trusting relationship, but not all actions that require a level of trust in someone else are technically trusts.
That is correct, Dave. We engage in all sorts of relationships that require trust, but not all trusting relationships are technically trusts at law.
What all these guidelines are focused on is the creation and maintenance of a foreign situs trust at law, which has been named a sacred purpose trust.
Okay, I get it. Since the minister of trust is just another name for the trustee, the holding possession is not only the literal handing over of the offering of property to the minister trustee, it is also that transfer of the legal title to the property to the trustee and the equitable title to the beneficiary, which creates the sacred purpose trust.
You got it, Dave. Sacred is set apart, different or foreign. All trusts have a purpose, which is written out in the trust's indenture. And trust implies both the transfer and split of titles into legal and equitable. Legal to the trustee, equitable to the beneficiary, but also the establishment of a trusting relationship, where the grantor trusts the trustee to fulfill the trustee's fiduciary responsibilities to the beneficiary, according to the terms and conditions of the trust's indenture.
Okay. I see what Guideline 8 is referring to in relationship to trusts versus trusting relationships, and the division of titles and the complete giving up of the property. What about the words, promise and pledge? Why exactly doesn't a pledge or promise to give create a trust?
That's a good question, Dave. I started to see this better when I pondered the Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon, and other telethons, where they take pledges or promises. There is a trusting relationship that is established when we make a promise or a pledge of some sort, and I would imagine that all the donations pledged during the telethon go into an actual charitable or other type of trust. I know the public television station's annual telethon is asking for pledges to fund the Friends of Public Television Trust, but what would happen if lots of people pledged, but then forgot, or reneged, or something else happened that prevented them from being able to fulfill their pledge or promise?
That wouldn't be good.
That's for sure. So if a trust was expected to fulfill some sort of fiduciary responsibility, like caring for widows and orphans, but all it ever received to do its job was mere promises or pledges, but no actual transfers of property or funds into the trust, what happens to the trust, and to the trusting relationship, and to those looking to the trust for help in their time of need?
Yes. I am seeing this a lot clearer now.
And then there is the whole problem with making pledges and promises in the first place. A pledge or promise works to bind people into agreements and takes away free will choice, like Zach said. I may have every intention of fulfilling a future promise to pay a pledge, but what if something happens to me in the meantime that makes it hard for me to meet that obligation that I have bound myself to? Debt in any form is never a good thing. We should always try to live in each moment, and if we want to give, don't pledge.
The Sacred Purpose Trust is the Messiah's Kingdom Government Trust. It's his altar. It's a Lord's table. But it doesn't accept debt or future promises to pay. If we are led to freely give our burnt offerings to the Christ, entrusting a minister to use those offerings for Christ's government purposes, then we give and hand over the property into the holding possession of the minister of trust. So that Christ's altar, his table, his storehouse, has what it needs to feed his sheep and fulfill its sacred purpose.
This is why the civil governments don't work entirely on free will offerings of love, but rather by compelled performance on agreements. It doesn't accept pledges or promises, because as a government it cannot afford to not have food on its altar or table or treasury. It must fulfill its fiduciary responsibilities, and it doesn't trust, but uses force to make sure its subject citizens practice their impure religion of compelled performance, which is really a type of pledge. Christ's government works solely on free will choice.
I see.
So the first free will offering we give to the Christ, and all our subsequent offerings, tithes, are always given over in that moment that we make the choice to freely fund God's kingdom government treasury called his church. The sacred purpose trust is established the moment that property is granted into the holding possession of the minister of trust.
And any and all subsequent offerings works to maintain the sacred purpose trust so that it can continue to fulfill its duties to Christ's nation of followers, who are each choosing to repent and seek the kingdom of God at hand, and his righteousness by keeping the commandments, loving God and our neighbors as much as we love ourselves.
That's it. So simple a child can understand. The kingdom of God, the Christian nation, is a society that operates by pure faith, hope and charity under the perfect law of liberty.
Well then. Since we seem to understand Guideline 8, shall we have lunch together? I'm buying.
That sounds good, Stephen. Where do you want to eat?
I don't know. Do any of you have a suggestion?
Wherever your heart leads us, Stephen, is good with me.
I'm good with that. Lead on, Stephen. Just know though, all this talking about holding possession is making me want to hold, possess, and eat some food.
That's a good one, Dave. Peace.